The fluorescent lights of Seoul National University Hospital buzzed overhead like angry hornets as Elena Voss clutched the chart to her chest, her heart slamming against her ribs. It was 3:17 a.m., the corridor dead silent except for the distant beep of monitors. She had just stepped out of room 1708 when she felt it again, that cold, predatory gaze boring into the back of her neck. She turned slowly. At the far end of the hallway, half hidden in shadow, stood a man in a charcoal suit that cost more than her yearly salary. Tall, broad-shouldered, impossibly still. His dark eyes locked on her with an intensity that made the air feel thinner. He didn't blink. He didn't move. He just watched. Elena knew exactly who he was. Liam Kwon. The man whose name was whispered in fear across every corner of Seoul's underworld. The youngest boss to ever lead the Black Dragon Syndicate. Ruthless. Untouchable. And for reasons no one could explain, he had been coming to this hospital every night for the past 2 weeks. Not for treatment. For her mother. Her mother, Abigail Voss, lay in that room fighting stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And every night, Liam Kwon arrived with flowers, with quiet words, with gifts that no dying woman should ever receive from a man like him. He sat by her bedside for hours, speaking softly in Korean, holding her frail hand like it was made of glass. Elena had tried to ban him. Security had tried. Even the hospital director had tried. But Liam Kwon didn't take no for an answer. Tonight, though, something was different. Tonight, he wasn't going into room 1708. Tonight, he was staring at Elena. And the look in his eyes wasn't reverence. It was hunger. She took one step back, her sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. He took one step forward. The distance between them shrank, and with it, every ounce of safety she'd ever felt in these halls. Hey, beautiful souls, it's your storyteller here, pulling you into one of the most dangerously addictive stories I've ever told. If you're curled up in bed right now, or sneaking a listen on your commute, or hiding under the covers with the volume low, tell me in the comments where you're watching from tonight. Drop your city, your country, even just my dark bedroom if that's where you are. How are you holding up after that opening? Heart racing yet? If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story is about to go places that will wreck you in the best way, and you do not want to miss what happens next. Because right now, Elena Voss is realizing something terrifying. Liam Kwon isn't just obsessed with saving her dying mother. He wants her, too. And once Liam Kwon decides he wants something, no one on earth can stop him from taking it. What happens when the most powerful man in Seoul's criminal underworld falls for the one woman who hates everything he stands for? When love and danger collide in the sterile halls of a hospital, where every heartbeat could be the last. Stay with me. Because this is only the beginning, and it's about to get so much darker. Elena Voss pushed through the stairwell door, her breath coming in sharp bursts as she descended 2 steps at a time. The echo of her sneakers on concrete was the only sound chasing her, but she could still feel Liam Kwon's eyes on her skin, like brands that refused to cool. She didn't stop until she reached the nurse's break room on the 5th floor, slamming the door behind her and leaning against it, palms flat on the cold metal. Only then did she let the tremor take over her hands. Elena was 28, the kind of woman who looked fragile at first glance, slender frame, pale skin from too many night shifts, dark auburn hair always pulled into a practical ponytail, but anyone who worked with her knew better. She had a spine forged from years of watching her mother waste away, from single-handedly paying medical bills that could bankrupt a small country, from smiling at patients while her own heart cracked open every single day. Her deepest desire wasn't money or escape. It was simple, brutal, impossible. She wanted her mother to live. Not just survive, live. To wake up one morning without pain, to laugh again the way she used to when Elena was small, to walk out of this hospital and never look back. Her greatest fear. That she would fail Abigail. That all the double shifts, all the denied vacations, all the tears swallowed in supply closets would amount to nothing. That she would be left alone with the echo of a life she couldn't save. Abigail Voss, 54 years old, former high school literature teacher, now a ghost in a hospital bed, had raised Elena alone after her husband died in a car accident when Elena was 7. Abigail had been fierce love wrapped in soft cardigans, reading poetry aloud at bedtime, teaching Elena that words could heal even when medicine couldn't. Cancer had stolen her strength, but not her spirit. Even now, delirious with pain meds, Abigail's eyes still lit up when Elena walked into the room. And then there was Liam Kwon, 32. Heir to the Black Dragon Syndicate after his father's mysterious death 3 years ago. The papers called him the Shadow King of Seoul because no camera ever caught him smiling, because entire rival gangs vanished overnight when they crossed him. He moved through the city like a storm, silent, inevitable, destructive. But with Abigail, he was different. Elena had watched it happen gradually. First, he arrived with a rare orchid from Jeju Island, claiming it was for the woman who taught half of Seoul's elite how to read Shakespeare. Then came imported teas said to ease nausea. Then books, dog-eared copies of the poems Abigail used to teach. He spoke to her in quiet, perfect Korean, translating verses aloud when her English editions were too heavy for her hands. Abigail adored him. She called him my dark-haired angel. She said he had sad eyes. She said he reminded her of the tragic heroes she used to teach, capable of great violence, but carrying great sorrow too. Elena hated him for it. Hated how he made her mother smile on days when even morphine couldn't. Hated how Abigail defended him. He's not what they say, Elena. He's lost, just like we are. Hated most of all that she couldn't prove he was dangerous, because in that room, with her mother, he never was. Tonight was the first night he had looked at Elena the way a man looks at a woman he intends to possess. And it terrified her how part of her, buried deep, shameful, felt something answer back. Elena's best friend at the hospital was Sophia Park, a sharp-tongued ER nurse who had grown up in the rougher neighborhoods of Busan and could smell trouble from 3 wards away. Sophia had been the one to first identify Liam. "That's Kwon Liam," she'd whispered one night, peeking through the blinds of room 1708. "My cousin lost 2 fingers working for one of his lieutenants. You need to get him away from your mom." But Abigail refused to let him be banned. And the hospital administration suddenly discovered mysterious donations that made complaining impossible. Sophia burst into the break room now, still in scrubs splattered with someone else's blood. "You look like you saw a ghost. What happened?" Elena slid down the door until she sat on the floor. "He looked at me." Sophia's eyes widened. "Like, looked at you. Like he wanted to own me." Sophia whistled low. "Girl, you're in deep shit." Elena laughed, but it came out broken. "Tell me something I don't know." What Elena didn't know, what no one outside Liam's inner circle knew, was why he came to that hospital in the first place. 3 months ago, Abigail Voss had saved his life. Not in the dramatic, bullet-wound way people imagined with mafia bosses. It had been quieter, more devastating. Liam had been driving through a rain-slicked intersection late one night when a drunk teenager ran a red light and T-boned his car. Liam walked away with bruises. The teenager didn't walk away at all. Liam had held the boy as he died on the asphalt, blood mixing with rain, the kid whispering apologies to a mother he'd never see again. In the aftermath, Liam, man untouched by guilt for years, shattered. He checked himself into Seoul National under a false name, claiming insomnia and chest pain, anything to avoid questions. Abigail Voss happened to be his nurse that night. She saw through the fake name immediately, but instead of fear, she offered tea and silence. And then she told him about her own husband, how he'd died instantly in a crash, how she'd never gotten to say goodbye, how guilt could eat a person alive if they let it. For the first time in his adult life, Liam Kwon cried. Abigail never told a soul. Not even Elena. She simply listened, held his hand the way she held her daughter's, and told him that even monsters could choose to be men again. From that night on, Liam was lost to her, not in lust, but in something closer to worship. A son who never had a mother's gentleness. A sinner who found absolution in the voice of a dying woman. But worship has a way of spreading. The more time Liam spent at Abigail's bedside, the more he noticed Elena. The way she moved like someone perpetually braced for bad news. The fierce tenderness in her eyes when she thought no one was watching. The exhaustion she hid behind professional smiles. He began to want her the way drowning men want air. Not because she was beautiful, though God, she was, but because she was the living proof of everything her mother had taught him about goodness. She was the future Abigail would never live to see. And Liam Kwon had never wanted anything he couldn't buy or take. Until now. Hey, my loves, are you still with me? I see some of you dropping cities in the comments already. Seoul, Manila, New York, even someone in a tiny town in Norway. Thank you for letting me into your world tonight. If this story is hitting you in the chest the way it's hitting me telling it, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button so more people find this channel, and if you're not subscribed yet, please fix that right now. We're building a family here, one that loves stories that hurt so good. And tell me in the comments, whose side are you on right now? Elena's fear, or the pull you feel toward understanding Liam? Be honest. I read every single one. Because the deeper we go, the harder it's going to be to choose. Elena barely made it through the rest of her shift. Every corridor felt too long, every shadow too deep. She kept expecting Liam Kwon to appear around the next corner, but he didn't. By the time the morning sun bled through the windows, she was running on fumes and fury. She marched straight to room 1708, ready to confront her mother. Abigail was awake, propped up against pillows, a faint smile on her lips as she watched the news on the muted television. "Mom," Elena said, closing the door firmly behind her. "We need to talk about him." Abigail's eyes softened. "Good morning to you too, sweetheart. Don't do that. Don't deflect." Elena pulled the visitor chair close and sat, taking her mother's thin hand. "He was staring at me last night. Not at you, at me. Like I was prey." Abigail's smile faded. She searched her daughter's face for a long moment. "Elena, he's not a monster with everyone. With me, he's been nothing but kind." "That's the problem." Elena's voice cracked. "Kindness from a man like him always comes with a price. I looked him up, Mom. Do you know how many people have disappeared because they owed the Black Dragons? Do you know what he does?" Abigail closed her eyes briefly. "I know enough. And I know he carries guilt heavier than most men could bear." Elena stood abruptly, pacing the small space. "Guilt doesn't make him safe. I want him banned from this room. Today. You will do no such thing." The voice wasn't Abigail's. Elena spun around. Liam Kwon stood in the doorway, holding a small paper bag from Abigail's favorite bakery in Gangnam, the one that made red bin taiyaki fresh every morning. He was dressed in a simple black sweater and slacks today, no suit, no bodyguards visible, but the air still shifted around him like the room itself recognized its new apex predator. He stepped inside and closed the door with deliberate quiet. Abigail's face lit up. "Liam, you came early." "I heard raised voices," he said softly, his Korean-accented English smooth and low. His gaze flicked to Elena, unreadable. "I didn't want to interrupt, but I won't let you fight because of me." Elena's pulse thundered in her ears. "You don't get to decide that. This is my mother's room. My family." Liam placed the bag gently on the tray table, then turned fully toward Elena. Up close, he was even more overwhelming. Tall enough that she had to tilt her head, broad enough that he blocked the light from the window. But his eyes weren't cold now. They were raw. "I would never hurt Abigail," he said. "Or you." "Then leave," Elena shot back. "Stop coming here. Stop bringing gifts. Stop pretending you're something you're not." He didn't flinch. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded envelope. Thick, cream-colored, expensive. He held it out to her. Elena didn't take it. "It's for your mother," he said quietly. "A treatment trial in Boston. Experimental immunotherapy. Only 10 patients accepted worldwide this year. Abigail's oncologist submitted her name months ago, but the cost," he trailed off. "The cost is covered. Fully. Travel, lodging, follow-up care. Everything." Elena stared at the envelope like it was a loaded gun. Abigail's sharp intake of breath cut through the silence. "Liam, you didn't." "I did." He never took his eyes off Elena. But only if Elena agrees. Elena felt the floor tilt beneath her. "What?" "I won't force this on either of you," Liam said. "If you tell me to walk away forever, I will. The offer dies with me. Abigail stays here, on the current protocol. His voice was steady, but something flickered in his eyes, something that looked almost like fear. "But if you let me help, I'll do it with no strings. No visits. No contact. You'll never have to see me again." Abigail reached weakly toward the envelope. "Elena, baby, this could." "No." Elena's voice shook. She looked at Liam, fury and terror warring inside her chest. "Why? Why would you do this?" For the first time, his composure cracked, just a fraction. His jaw tightened. "Because your mother gave me back something I thought was dead. Hope." He paused, then added, so quietly she almost missed it, "and because the idea of a world without her in it is unbearable to me." Elena's throat closed. She hated him for saying it. Hated how it echoed her own deepest terror. She snatched the envelope from his hand, fingers brushing his electric, unwanted, and tore it open right there. Inside, acceptance letter from Massachusetts General Hospital, plane tickets for 2, patient and 1 companion, reservation confirmations at a medical apartment, and a cashier's check made out to the hospital for an amount that made Elena's vision blur. 7 figures. Enough to save her mother's life. Enough to buy her mother's life. She looked up at him, tears burning. "There are always strings with men like you." Liam's gaze held hers, unflinching. "Not this time." Then, softer, "But I won't lie to you, Elena. I want there to be." The confession hung in the air like smoke. Abigail's eyes widened. Elena felt every molecule of oxygen leave the room. Liam took 1 step closer, not threatening, but inevitable. "I want you to see me. Not the stories. Not the name. Me." His voice dropped. "And I want you. More than I've ever wanted anything." Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. She should scream for security. She should slap him. Instead, she stood frozen as he reached out, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and brushed a stray tear from her cheek with his thumb. The touch burned. "I'll give you time," he said. "Decide about the treatment. Decide about me. But know this, I don't lose what I decide is mine." He turned to Abigail, bowed deeply, the traditional Korean bow of respect, and murmured something in Korean that made Abigail's eyes fill with tears. Then he walked out, leaving the door open, the envelope in Elena's shaking hands, and the entire axis of her world permanently tilted. Elena sank into the chair, staring at the papers. Her mother's life, or her soul? Because saying yes to the treatment meant saying yes to Liam Kwan's world. And saying no meant watching the only person she had left in the world die. "Hey, my beautiful ones, did that just happen? Did he really lay it all on the table like that? I need to know, are you screaming at your screen right now? Are you team take the money and run or team burn it all down? Drop your vote in the comments. Tell me what you would do in Elena's place. Because the choice she makes next is going to destroy everything she thought she knew about good, evil, and the dangerous space in between. If you're hooked this deep already, please hit subscribe and ring that bell. We're only getting started, and the twists coming will leave you breathless. Elena didn't sleep for 3 days. She carried the envelope with her everywhere, folded in her scrub pocket, creased from being opened and closed 100 times. Every shift, she walked past room 1708 expecting Liam to be there. He wasn't. He had kept his word. No visits, no flowers, no quiet conversations in Korean with her mother. The absence felt louder than his presence ever had. Abigail's condition worsened by the hour. The latest scans showed new metastases in her liver. Pain management was barely holding. Elena watched her mother shrink into the bed, the fierce woman who once graded papers until dawn, now too weak to hold a teacup. And every time Elena looked at the plane tickets, dated for January 5th, she felt the noose tighten. On the 4th night, she broke. She texted the private number Liam had written on the back of the acceptance letter. One word. Fine. His reply came in seconds. I'll arrange everything. Thank you. No emojis. No warmth. Just those 5 words. And yet her heart raced like he'd whispered them against her ear. The next evening, a black Mercedes appeared at the hospital's staff entrance. Not flashy, understated, armored, the kind of car that screamed money without needing to shout. A driver in a charcoal suit held the door open. Elena hesitated on the curb, clutching her coat tighter against the December wind slicing through Seoul. Liam stepped out from the back seat. He looked exhausted, shadows under his eyes, hair slightly disheveled, like he hadn't slept either. No entourage tonight. Just him. I can ride with my mother in the ambulance, Elena said immediately, chin lifted. You don't need to. I'm not here to force anything, he cut in gently. The ambulance is for Abigail and the medical team. I'm here for you. She laughed, sharp and disbelieving. I don't need a ride. You haven't slept in days, he said. You're shaking. Let me get you home safely. That's all I'm asking tonight. Against every instinct, she got in. The car smelled like him, clean, expensive, something dark and spiced. They rode in silence for 10 minutes, the city lights streaking across the tinted windows. Finally, Elena spoke. Why me? Liam stared out at the Han River glittering below them. Because you fight for her the way no one ever fought for me. She turned to him, startled. He met her gaze. My mother died when I was 9. Overdose. My father said she was weak. He beat the weakness out of me for years after. His voice was flat, like he was reading a report. I learned early that love is a liability. Until I met Abigail. She showed me it doesn't have to be. Elena swallowed hard. That doesn't explain why you look at me like that. A faint, bitter smile touched his mouth. Because you're the part of her that gets to keep living. You're proof that goodness survives. And I'm selfish enough to want that light for myself. The car pulled up outside her tiny apartment in Mapo-gu. She reached for the door, but his hand gently caught her wrist. Electricity shot up her arm. One condition, he said quietly. While Abigail is in Boston, you stay in Seoul. Safe. I'll have people watching the apartment, the hospital. No, she yanked free. I'm going with her. His eyes darkened. It's not safe. For who? Me or your enemies? Both. He leaned closer, voice dropping. There's a war starting. The White Tiger clan out of Busan, they've been testing borders since my father died. If they find out about you, about Abigail, they'll use you to get to me. Elena's stomach dropped. Then why involve us at all? Because losing her would destroy me more than any war. His thumb brushed her pulse point without permission, and she hated that she didn't pull away. I can protect you here. In Boston, I can't. She shoved the door open and stumbled out into the cold. Then maybe you should have thought of that before you decided we were yours to save. She slammed the door and ran inside without looking back. But over the next week, the tension coiled tighter. Liam kept his distance physically, but his presence was everywhere. A new home care nurse appeared for Abigail's final days in Seoul, top of her field, gentle, discreet. Paid for anonymously. Groceries showed up at Elena's door, fresh fruit, meals from the Michelin-starred places she could never afford. Security cameras appeared outside her building. She spotted the same black SUV parked across the street every night. And every evening, a single text from Liam. Are you safe? Did you eat? Sleep well, Elena. She never replied. But she didn't block the number either. Sophia cornered her in the locker room one shift. You're glowing and terrified at the same time. Spill. Elena confessed everything, the treatment, the texts, the car ride, the confession. Sophia whistled. His courting you mafia style. Gifts, protection, obsession. Girl, you're in a K-drama written by someone very unhinged. I hate him, Elena whispered. Do you? Sophia asked softly. Or do you hate that you don't? That night, Elena broke again. She texted him, meet me. Rooftop garden. Hospital. Midnight. He was already there when she arrived, leaning against the railing, city lights sprawling beneath him like a kingdom he owned. She stopped 10 feet away. I'm going to Boston with her. No. You don't get to decide. He pushed off the railing, closing the distance slowly. Then I'm coming too. Elena laughed incredulously. You can't just leave Seoul. You have, whatever it is you do. I'll handle it. He was close now, close enough that she could see the tension in his shoulders. I'm not letting you out of my sight. And if I say no? His eyes flashed. I'll follow anyway. The air between them crackled. Anger, fear, something hotter. Elena stepped forward until they were inches apart. You don't own me, Liam Kwon. No, he murmured, voice rough. But I'm yours if you'll have me. Her breath caught. He didn't touch her. He just stood there, letting her see everything he was offering, and everything he was risking. Slowly, trembling, Elena reached up and touched his face. Just her fingertips against the sharp line of his jaw. The sound he made, half groan, half prayer, shattered something inside her. She pulled back before she could do something stupid like kiss him. I'm still going, she said. With or without your permission. He closed his eyes briefly. Then I'll clear my schedule. As she walked away, she heard him speak one last time, so low the wind almost stole it. I'd burn the city down before I let anyone hurt you. Hey, loves, are you okay? Because I'm not. That rooftop scene just rewired my brain. Tell me in the comments, are you rooting for them to give in? Or are you screaming at Elena to run? I need to know I'm not the only one losing sleep over these two. If you're feeling all the feelings right now, please drop a like and subscribe. We're heading into the midpoint, and the revelation coming is going to flip everything you think you know upside down. I promise you're not ready. The private jet lifted off from Incheon at dawn on January 4th, slicing through a sky the color of bruised steel. Elena sat across the aisle from her mother's medical stretcher, holding Abigail's hand while a flight nurse monitored vitals. Liam sat in the front row, facing them, laptop open but untouched. He hadn't slept either. Elena could see it in the tension around his eyes. For the first hour, no one spoke. The hum of the engines filled the cabin like white noise over a grave. Then Abigail stirred, her voice paper-thin. Elena, come closer. Elena leaned in. Her mother's eyes, cloudy with medication but still sharp, flicked toward Liam. Tell him, Abigail whispered. Tell him the truth before we land. Elena's stomach plummeted. Mom, you need to rest. No, Abigail squeezed her fingers with surprising strength. He deserves to know why I could help him that night. Why I understood his guilt. Liam's head snapped up. He closed the laptop slowly and moved to the seat beside Elena, close enough that their knees almost touched. Abigail took a labored breath. Liam, the boy in the car accident 3 years ago. The one you held while he died. Liam went very still. That was my grandson. The words detonated in the small cabin. Elena felt the world drop out from under her. She stared at her mother, mouth open, unable to form sound. Liam's face drained of color. What? Abigail's eyes filled with tears. My daughter, Elena's older sister, Grace, she died in childbirth when Elena was 12. The baby, Daniel. I raised him for 16 years. He was driving home from a friend's house that night. The police said it was the other driver's fault. A rich man in a black sedan who walked away without a scratch. Liam's hands began to shake. He pressed them flat against his thighs as if to hide it. I never knew his name, Abigail continued, voice breaking. They said the survivor paid a settlement and disappeared. I hated him. God help me, I hated him with every breath. Until the night you checked in here, broken over a boy you couldn't save. And I saw your eyes, and I knew. Elena's mind reeled. She turned to Liam, horror rising. You killed my nephew. No, Liam rasped. The light was green. I had the right of way. The police report. I read the report, Abigail cut in softly. Later. After I recognized you. It said the teenager ran the red. Drunk. But you carried the guilt anyway. Liam stood abruptly, pacing the narrow aisle like a caged animal. I paid for his funeral. Anonymously. I set up a trust for you, Abigail, I swear I didn't know it was you. I know, Abigail said. That's why I never told you. Because you were punishing yourself more than any court ever could. And because I saw that you were trying to be better. Elena felt tears streaming down her face. All this time, the treatment, The gifts, you were trying to buy forgiveness. Liam stopped pacing. He looked at her, devastated. At first, yes. When I realized who she was, I thought money could fix it. But then I kept coming back. Not for absolution. Because she became the mother I never had. And you, his voice cracked. You became the only person I've ever wanted to be good for. He dropped to his knees in front of Abigail's stretcher. I'm sorry. For Daniel. For the pain I caused you. If you want me gone, I'll turn this plane around right now. Abigail reached out a trembling hand and touched his cheek. I forgave you a long time ago, sweetheart. Holding on to hate was killing me faster than the cancer. Elena couldn't breathe. Every moment of the last months reframed in brutal clarity. His gentleness with Abigail not manipulation, but penance. His obsession with Elena not conquest, but a desperate grasp at redemption through the family he'd shattered. She stood, legs unsteady, and walked to the back of the cabin. She needed space. Needed air that didn't feel poisoned with grief. Liam didn't follow. Through the window, the Pacific stretched endless and cold below them. An hour later, the flight nurse approached Elena quietly. Your mother wants to see you both. Together. Elena returned to find Liam still on his knees, head bowed. Abigail looked exhausted but peaceful. Listen to me, Abigail said, taking one of Elena's hands and one of Liam's. I have little time left. Maybe the treatment works, maybe it buys me months. But I need you two to hear this. She looked at Liam. You are not the man who sat behind that wheel 3 years ago. You've become someone Daniel would have been proud to know. Then to Elena. And you, my fierce girl, don't let fear steal the chance to love someone who sees your light and wants to stand in it. He's not perfect. Neither are we. But he's trying. God knows he's trying. Elena sobbed openly now. Abigail's grip weakened. Promise me you'll talk. Really talk. No more secrets. They both nodded, unable to speak. Abigail smiled faintly and closed her eyes. Good. Now let an old woman sleep. Liam rose slowly and returned to his seat, giving Elena space. But his eyes never left her, raw, pleading, terrified that this revelation had destroyed whatever fragile thing had been growing between them. Elena curled into her seat, staring at the envelope of medical records on the table. Everything she thought she knew about good and evil, guilt and forgiveness, love and danger, it had all shifted on its axis. The man she'd hated was the man who'd unknowingly taken part of her family. The man who'd offered salvation had been seeking it himself. And the obsession she'd feared might be the only thing strong enough to heal them all. Hey, my beautiful broken hearts, are you crying? Because I'm full-on ugly crying writing this. That revelation just gutted me. Tell me in the comments, did you see even a hint of that coming? And now that you know the truth, has it changed how you feel about Liam? About Elena's choice? Please, if this story is wrecking you the way it's wrecking me, share it with someone who needs to feel something deep tonight. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications. This is the moment everything changes, and the darkest hour is coming next. We're not done hurting yet, but I promise the light at the end is worth it. The jet landed in Boston under a heavy grey sky, snow flurries whipping across the tarmac like angry ghosts. Massachusetts General Hospital had a team waiting, stretchers, heated blankets, every detail orchestrated with military precision. Elena walked beside her mother's gurney, gripping Abigail's hand so tightly her knuckles went white, as if sheer will could keep death from claiming what was hers. Liam trailed 10 steps behind. He hadn't spoken a word since Abigail's confession over the Atlantic. His face was a mask carved from stone, but Elena caught the tremor in his fingers when he thought no one was looking. They settled Abigail into her private suite on the oncology ward. The trial drug infusion started that same afternoon. For 48 hours, there was cautious hope. Abigail's color improved slightly, her pain eased, she even managed a weak joke about Boston clam chowder. Then everything unraveled. On the third night, Elena woke in the recliner beside her mother's bed to the sound of alarms shrieking. Abigail's heart rate plummeted, oxygen saturation crashing. Doctors and nurses flooded the room, shouting orders, pumping epinephrine, bagging breaths. Elena was pushed into the hallway, the door slamming in her face. She slid down the wall, knees to chest, sobs tearing out of her like shrapnel. Minutes or hours later, she couldn't tell, a doctor emerged, face grim. "We've stabilized her. For now." The immunotherapy triggered a cytokine storm. "Her body is attacking itself. We've stopped the infusion. She's in a medically induced coma to give her organs a chance to recover." Elena's voice was barely a whisper. "Will she wake up?" "We don't know." The doctor walked away, leaving Elena alone in the sterile corridor. She didn't see Liam approach until his shadow fell over her. He looked wrecked, eyes bloodshot, suit rumpled, hair disheveled from running his hands through it too many times. He crouched in front of her, not touching, just there. "I'm so sorry," he rasped. "This is my fault. I pushed for the trial. I thought." "Stop." Elena's voice cracked like ice under pressure. She looked up at him, tears carving rivers down her cheeks. "Just stop." She stood on shaking legs. "You did this. Your money. Your guilt. You dragged us across the world for your redemption, and now she might die because of it." Liam flinched as if she'd struck him. "Elena." "No," the word exploded out of her, raw and furious. "You killed my nephew. You nearly killed my mother with your arrogance. And you made me start to," her voice broke completely. "You made me start to care about you." The confession hung between them, ugly and true. Liam's face crumpled. He reached for her, but she jerked back. "Don't touch me. Don't you dare." He dropped his hands, defeated. "Tell me what you need. Anything. I'll do it. I need you gone." The words tasted like ash, but she forced them out. "I never want to see you again. You stay away from my mother. You stay away from me. Go back to Seoul and your wars and your blood money." Liam stood slowly, every movement heavy. His eyes, those dark, haunted eyes, searched hers for mercy and found none. "If that's what you want," he said quietly, "I'll go." He turned and walked down the corridor. No bodyguards. No dramatic exit. Just a man walking away with his heart in ruins. Elena watched until he disappeared around the corner, and then she shattered. She didn't leave the hospital for days. She slept in the waiting room chair, showered in the staff facilities, lived on vending machine coffee and grief. Abigail remained in the coma, machines breathing for her, numbers on monitors the only sign she was still fighting. On the 7th night, Elena's phone buzzed with a news alert. Black Dragon Syndicate leader Liam Kwon critically injured in Seoul ambush. Her blood turned to ice. She opened the article with trembling fingers. White Tiger clan hit. Drive-by shooting outside a Gangnam nightclub. 3 dead. Kwon airlifted to Seoul National, the same hospital where this nightmare began, in critical condition. Multiple gunshot wounds. Prognosis uncertain. There was a photo, Liam on a stretcher, face pale, oxygen mask, blood soaking his shirt. Elena stared at it until the screen went black. She called the private number she'd sworn never to use again. It rang once. A man's voice, Korean, clipped, one of Liam's lieutenants, answered. "He's in surgery," the man said without greeting. "Internal bleeding. They don't know if he'll make it." Elena's knees buckled. She gripped the wall for support. "Tell me the truth," she whispered. Did he let this happen?" Silence on the line. Then, Boss cleared his security detail 2 days after landing in Boston. Said he didn't deserve protection anymore. He's been walking into traps on purpose. White tigers were waiting for him to be vulnerable. He didn't fight back. The phone slipped from her hand. Liam was trying to die. Because she'd told him he should. Elena sank to the floor of the ICU waiting room, sobs ripping from her chest so violently she couldn't breathe. Nurses rushed over, thinking she was having a panic attack. Maybe she was. Everything she'd feared about him, violence, danger, destruction, had come true. But not the way she thought. He wasn't the monster. She was. She'd sent a man who'd already lost everything back to a war zone with no armor, carrying only the weight of her hatred. And now both people she loved most in the world were slipping away. One in a coma, one bleeding out on an operating table 7,000 miles away. Elena pressed her forehead to the cold tile floor and screamed silently into the void. There was no one left to save any of them. Hey, my loves. I warned you the darkest hour would break us. Are you still breathing? Because I'm not okay. I need you to do something for me right now. Go to the comments and tell me, have you ever pushed someone away so hard you broke them? Have you ever realized too late that hate and love live in the same place in the heart? This story is destroying me in the best way. If it's doing the same to you, please hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who understands complicated, painful, beautiful love. Because the turning point is coming, and redemption might just cost everything. Elena hadn't slept in days. The ICU waiting room had become her prison. Fluorescent lights humming endlessly, the antiseptic smell burned into her lungs, the constant beep of machines counting down her mother's life. She sat hunched in the corner chair, knees drawn to her chest, staring at the phone in her lap. The news article about Liam's shooting was still open, the photo of him bloodied and unconscious seared behind her eyelids every time she blinked. Her fault. All of it. She had weaponized her pain, sharpened it into a blade, and driven it straight into the one man who had ever tried to carry her grief for her. A nurse approached hesitantly. Miss Voss. Your mother's vitals are improving. The coma, they're bringing her out of it slowly. She's asking for you. Elena stumbled to her feet, legs numb, and rushed into the room. Abigail's eyes fluttered open, hazy, but alive. Really alive. Baby, Abigail whispered, voice raspy from the tube they'd just removed. Where's Liam? The question gutted her. Elena collapsed beside the bed, burying her face in her mother's blanket, sobs tearing out of her like something feral. I sent him away, Mom. I told him I hated him. I told him to leave and never come back. And now her voice shattered. He's dying. Because of me. Abigail's frail hand found Elena's hair, stroking weakly. Call him. I can't. He's in surgery. They don't know if he'll. Call him anyway. Elena dialed the lieutenant's number with shaking fingers. This time, a different voice answered, older, calmer. He's out of surgery, the man said. Stable. But he won't wake up. Doctors say his body is healing, but his mind, he's choosing not to come back. Elena's heart stopped. What do you mean? He keeps coding. They bring him back every time, but his will is gone. He thinks he doesn't deserve to live. The phone slipped from her ear. Abigail took it gently, pressing it to her own ear. Put me on speaker. Now. The man obeyed. Abigail's voice, weak but fierce, filled the room. This is Abigail Voss. You tell every doctor, every nurse, every person in that hospital. Liam Kwon is not allowed to die. You hear me? He has a family waiting for him. He has a woman who loves him even if she's too stubborn to say it yet. And he has a mother who is not finished with him. Silence on the line. Then the man whispered, yes, Abigail handed the phone back to Elena. Book the first flight. You're going to Seoul. I can't leave you. I'm awake. I'm breathing. The doctors say the storm has passed. I have months now, maybe years. Go get our boy. Elena stared at her mother, tears streaming. Our boy. Abigail smiled softly. He's been hours since the night he cried in my arms over a boy he couldn't save. Go bring him home, Elena. 20 hours later, Elena landed at Incheon. A black car was waiting, same lieutenant from the phone. He didn't speak until they were speeding towards Seoul National Hospital. He woke up once, the man said quietly. Mumbled your name. Then slipped back under. Elena pressed a fist to her mouth to hold in the sob. The hospital corridor was guarded heavily. Black dragon men in suits lining the walls, eyes hard until they saw her. Then they parted like the Red Sea. She pushed into the private ICU room. Liam lay there, hooked to machines, face pale against the white sheets, bandages wrapping his chest and shoulder. He looked smaller. Broken. But alive. Elena pulled the chair close and took his hand. Cold, limp. Liam, she whispered, voice cracking. I'm here. No response. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his knuckles. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I let fear turn me cruel. I pushed you away because I was terrified of how much I already needed you. Tears dripped onto his skin. I thought hating you would protect me, but it almost killed us both. She climbed carefully onto the bed beside him, curling against his uninjured side, resting her head on his shoulder like she'd dreamed of doing 100 times and denied herself. I love you, she said against his neck, voice raw and trembling. I love the man who brings my mother flowers. I love the man who kneels to ask forgiveness. I love the man who would burn cities to keep me safe and who would let himself burn to keep me from pain. A monitor beeped faster. She felt it, a faint squeeze of his fingers around hers. I love you, Liam Kwon. And I'm not leaving this bed until you open your eyes and let me spend the rest of my life proving it. His pulse strengthened under her palm. Slowly, agonizingly, his fingers tightened again, deliberate this time. Elena lifted her head. His eyes were open. Dark, pained, but focused on her like she was the only real thing in the world. Elena, he rasped, voice barely audible. I'm here, she sobbed, pressing her lips to his knuckles, his wrist, his palm. I'm here. Come back to me. He swallowed hard, tears slipping from the corners of his eyes into his hair. I don't deserve. You deserve everything, she cut in fiercely. You deserve forgiveness. You deserve love. You deserve a life that isn't just surviving. And I'm going to give it to you. Every single day. His hand moved, shaking, weak, to touch her face. His thumb brushed her tears. Stay, he whispered. Always. The heart monitor settled into a strong, steady rhythm. Outside the window, dawn broke over Seoul, golden light spilling across the city he'd nearly died protecting, across the woman he'd nearly died loving. Inside the room, two broken people held each other like lifelines. And for the first time in years, Liam Kwon let himself hope. Hey, my beautiful, sobbing messes, are you feeling that spark? That moment when everything turns? I need you to do something right now. Go to the comments and tell me the exact second your heart cracked open in this part. Was it Abigail calling him our boy? Was it Elena climbing into the bed? Was it him waking up for her? This story is almost at its peak, and the climax coming is going to be the most intense thing we've ever felt together. If you're not subscribed yet, please fix that. Hit the bell. Because the resolution is going to heal every wound we've opened. We're so close to the ending they deserve. The hospital room in Seoul smelled of iodine, warm blood, and the faint metallic tang of fear that never quite left intensive care. Machines hissed rhythmically, pumping air into Liam's lungs through the ventilator tube that had been removed only hours ago. His chest rose and fell unevenly under the thin blanket, each breath a small victory pulled from the edge of death. Elena hadn't left his side in 4 days. Her own body screamed for rest, muscles aching from sleeping upright in the vinyl chair, throat raw from whispering pleas and promises into his ear, eyes burning with tears that refused to stop. Her fingers were permanently interlaced with his, the skin of his palm rough against hers, the faint pulse in his wrist her only proof that he was still tethered to this world. On the 5th morning, the sun broke through the blinds in sharp golden blades, cutting across the bed like a promise. Liam's fingers twitched, then tightened. Elena jolted upright, heart slamming against her ribs so hard it hurt. Liam. His eyelids fluttered. Once. Twice. Then opened, slowly, painfully, to reveal those dark eyes she'd dreamed of and dreaded losing forever. The sound he made was barely human, a cracked, guttural rasp as he tried to speak around the rawness in his throat. Elena leaned over him, tears splashing onto his gown. Don't talk. Just look at me. I'm here. I'm right here. His gaze locked on her face like she was oxygen. His free hand, for lines tugging at the skin, lifted shakily, trembling violently as he reached for her cheek. When his fingertips finally brushed her skin, rough and fever-warm, they both shuddered. She turned her face into his palm, pressing desperate kisses to the center of it, tasting salt and antiseptic in him. I thought I lost you, she choked out. I thought you left me because I told you to. His thumb stroked her cheekbone, clumsy but deliberate, wiping away tears that kept falling. His lips moved, soundless at first, Then a whisper so faint she had to lean in until her forehead touched his. "Never leave you." The words scraped out like gravel, but they were the most beautiful sound she'd ever heard. Elena sobbed openly now, climbing carefully onto the bed again, curling into the space beside him. The monitors beeped faster as she pressed her face into the curve of his neck, breathing him in, hospital soap, faint sweat, the coppery ghost of blood, and underneath it all, the warm skin scent that was uniquely Liam. His arm, weak, bandaged, wrapped around her waist and pulled her closer with surprising strength, as if letting go would unravel him completely. They stayed like that for hours, tangled together, hearts pounding in sync, tears soaking into each other's skin. When the doctors came for rounds, they found them asleep, Elena's head on his chest, his fingers threaded through her hair, both breathing steady for the first time in weeks. But peace never lasted long in Liam Kwon's world. That night, as snow began to fall silently over Seoul, the lieutenant knocked once and entered. "Boss," he said quietly, eyes flicking to Elena asleep in the chair. "White Tigers sent a message. They know you're weak. They're coming for the city tonight. Final push." Liam's body tensed beneath the blankets. Elena woke instantly, sensing the shift in him like a physical touch. She sat up, gripping his hand. "No." Liam's jaw clenched. "I have to end this." "You almost died," she hissed, voice low and fierce. "You are not leaving this bed." He looked at her, really looked, the exhaustion, the terror, the love blazing in her eyes. Then he turned to the lieutenant. "Call every captain. Tell them I'm stepping down. Tonight." The man's eyes widened. "Sir." "Do it." Liam's voice was steel-wrapped in velvet. "I'm done." Elena's breath caught. The lieutenant bowed deeply and left. Silence stretched between them, thick and electric. Liam turned back to her, vulnerability raw in his face. "I can't be that man anymore. Not if it costs me you. Costs us." Elena's heart cracked open all over again. She leaned in, pressing her lips to his. Soft at first, tasting salt and healing and fear, then deeper, desperate, pouring every unsaid word into the kiss. He kissed her back like a drowning man breaking the surface. Hungry, reverent, alive. When they pulled apart, foreheads touching, breaths mingling, she whispered, "Then who are you going to be?" "The man who deserves you," he said against her mouth. "The man your mother believed in. The man who comes home to you every night and never makes you cry again." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but this time they were different. Relief, joy, terror giving way to something fragile and bright. 3 weeks later, the war ended, not with blood, but with absence. Liam disappeared from the underworld. Black Dragon territories were quietly divided among lieutenants who swore loyalty to peace. Rivals, expecting weakness, found only silence. No one ever found Liam Kwon again. Because Liam Kwon no longer existed. In his place was Liam Park, husband to Elena Voss Park, son-in-law to Abigail Voss, who had beaten every odd and walked out of Massachusetts General on her own 2 feet 6 months after the trial began. They lived quietly in a house on the outskirts of Jeju Island. White walls, ocean views, gardens Abigail tended with hands that no longer shook. Some nights, when the wind carried the salt of the sea through open windows, Elena would wake to find Liam staring at the ceiling, old ghosts whispering in the dark. She would pull him close, skin to skin, heart to heart, and remind him with her touch, her kiss, her whispered "I love you" that he was safe. That he was hers. That redemption wasn't a destination, it was this. Her fingers tracing the scars on his chest, his lips brushing the inside of her wrist, their bodies moving together slow and deliberate until the past dissolved into sweat and breath and release. One spring evening, as cherry blossoms drifted like snow across the garden, Abigail sat on the porch watching Elena and Liam dance barefoot in the grass to an old jazz record, laughing, spinning, alive. Abigail smiled, tears in her eyes, and whispered to the wind, "Thank you for giving them back to each other. Hey, my beautiful souls, can you feel it? That final exhale after holding your breath for so long. This is the triumph we bled for. The love that survived guilt, grief, gunfire, and every reason it shouldn't have worked. Go to the comments right now and tell me, where did you break? Where did you heal? Which moment will you carry with you? If this story wrapped its hands around your heart and refused to let go, please hit subscribe, turn on notifications, share this with someone who needs to believe in second chances. Because Elena and Liam's story is over, but the way it changed us, that lives forever. Years later, on a quiet summer night in Jeju, the ocean whispered against the shore like a lover's secret. The house was dark except for the soft glow of moonlight spilling through the open bedroom windows, carrying the scent of salt, night-blooming jasmine, and the faint warmth of their skin. Elena lay tangled in white sheets that smelled of sun and them, her body still trembling from the slow, deliberate way Liam had unraveled her, again. His mouth had traced every scar on her heart made visible on her skin, the faint stretch marks from the life they'd created together, the small burn on her shoulder from a forgotten curling iron in Boston, the place on her collarbone where he'd once bitten down in desperation the first night they finally gave in. He hovered above her now, forearms braced on either side of her head, sweat-slicked chest heaving, eyes so dark they swallowed the moonlight. His thumb brushed her lower lip, swollen from his kisses, and she felt the tremor in his touch, the same tremor that always appeared when he feared this might be a dream he didn't deserve. "Lena," he whispered, voice rough and reverent, using the nickname only he was allowed. "Look at me." She did. And in his gaze she saw everything. The man who had once ruled Seoul's shadows now stripped bare, vulnerable only for her. The man who woke from nightmares reaching for her like she was the only anchor in a storm. The man who still, after all this time, kissed her like he was asking permission to stay. Elena cupped his face, fingers threading through the faint silver at his temples that hadn't been there before the shooting, and pulled him down until their foreheads touched. "I'm here," she breathed against his lips. "I'm always here." He shuddered, a broken sound escaping his throat, and buried his face in her neck. His tears, hot, silent, slid against her skin, mixing with the sweat already there. She wrapped her legs around his hips, holding him inside her, around her, refusing to let even an inch of space exist between their bodies. "I still don't understand," he rasped, voice cracking open. "How you forgave me." She tightened around him deliberately, drawing a ragged groan from deep in his chest. "Because you forgave yourself for me," she whispered. "Because every night you choose to come home to me instead of the dark. Because you let me see you break and still stay." His hips rocked slowly, instinctively, a rhythm older than words, redemption in motion. Not fast, not desperate this time. Worship. Every thrust a vow, "I am yours." Every kiss pressed to her throat, her breasts, the inside of her wrist, "I will never leave again." Elena arched beneath him, fingers digging into the scarred muscle of his back, the bullet wounds long healed but still raised under her touch like braille she read every night. She traced them with her lips, her tongue, tasting salt and skin and survival. "I love every part of you," she gasped as he moved deeper, slower, drawing it out until pleasure bordered on pain. "The parts that broke. The parts that healed. The parts that still flinch when you think you don't deserve this." He lifted his head, eyes wet and fierce. "Then let me spend the rest of my life proving I do." He kissed her, deep, consuming, the kind of kiss that stole breath and gave it back reborn. His hand slid between them, fingers finding the place where they joined, circling with devastating precision until she shattered around him. Silent cry against his mouth, body clenching, vision whiting out. Only then did he let go, burying himself to the hilt, groaning her name like a prayer as he spilled inside her, pulse after pulse, marking her in the most primal way as his. They stayed locked together long after, hearts hammering in tandem, breath sinking. He didn't pull out. He never did, not on nights like this. When the past tried to creep in through the cracks, he stayed inside her like staying inside her body could keep him inside her life. Eventually, he rolled them so she lay draped over his chest, still connected, his arms banded around her like he'd never let go. Outside, the waves crashed softly. Inside, Elena traced the tattoo over his heart, the one he'd gotten a year after they married, her name in delicate script entwined with Abigail's favorite line of poetry. "Though my soul may set in darkness, it will rise in perfect light. I have loved the stars too fondly to be fearful of the night." He pressed his lips to her hair. "You are my stars." She smiled against his skin, feeling the steady thump of his heart under her palm, the heart that had stopped twice on an operating table and beat again because she'd demanded it. And you are my light. In the morning, they would wake to the sound of their daughter's laughter. 3 years old, dark hair like her father's, fierce eyes like her mother's, running barefoot through the garden chasing butterflies while Abigail watched from the porch, alive and laughing and whole. They would drink coffee on the terrace, Liam's hand always finding Elena's knee under the table, Abigail telling stories that made their little girl squeal. Life would be quiet and ordinary and perfect. But tonight, in the moonlit hush, it was just them. Bodies joined, souls fused, every slow breath a thank you to whatever force had refused to let them lose each other. Redemption tasted like salt and sweat and tears. It felt like his hand in her hair, her name on his lips, the way he held her like letting go would end him. It sounded like two hearts that had learned, against all odds, how to beat without fear. And it looked like this, two people who had walked through fire, emerged burned but unbroken, and chosen, every single day, to love anyway. Hey, my beautiful, healed hearts. We made it. From that first terrifying stare in a hospital corridor to this quiet, moon-drenched bed where forgiveness lives in every touch, we made it. I need you to do one last thing for me. Go to the comments and tell me, which moment will you carry with you forever? The rooftop confession. The bedside reunion. This final night of intimate, hard-won redemption. This story wrecked us, rebuilt us, and left us believing in love that survives the unthinkable. If it did the same for you, please, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, share this with every soul who needs to know that even the darkest stories can end in light. Because Elena and Liam's ending isn't just theirs. It's ours too. Thank you for trusting me with your heart for 60 minutes. I'll see you in the next story, where we fall all over again.